believe you've got water and I don't.
You should have brought water.
Yeah. I played myself, really. Oh, wait. Ready. Why do I keep shifting forward into it? Why are you so wide with your knees?
You said you were going to lead.
Okay,
And then you haven't said it.
Oh, wait.
Take your time.
Okay.
I think I should say it.
No, hold on.
I'm Charlie. Let's say that.
Alright, hey guys, this is episode 2 of the Black Iron Brothers podcast. I'm Charlie, this is Gus, and today we're going to be talking about how to build muscle. So last week we spoke about how to lose weight, how to lose body fat. To be very specific. Today we're going to be talking about how to gain muscle. Again, really simple, really easy tips on what we need vitally in order to build muscle. So, first of all, I would like to just thank everyone for liking and subscribing after that last episode for the first episode.
Very kind.
Very great feedback from everyone. Really appreciate that. So, yes, feel free to like and subscribe this one as well. That would be very kind.
Get it in now.
Yeah, do it early. Anyway, so gaining muscle. So how do we want to gain muscle? How do you gain muscle? Progressive overload. So that is the main thing that we're going to be talking about probably today is progressive overload. It's massively important. There are technically other ways that you can build some muscle as well. We will go into that as well. But the main one is definitely progressive overload.
And you can split it into 3 categories. Okay, so you split it into intensity, volume, and frequency. Right, so they're the 3 key ones when we're talking about progressive overload. If we talk about intensity, we're talking about weight, so how much it's actually on the bar, how heavy the dumbbells are. You could go into details of the speed of the rep and things like that, but mainly for beginners, you'd be focusing on the actual just mechanical weight, the resistance,
mechanical tension. Yeah. So that's intensity. Intensity is just your weight. Volume is your sets and reps. So basically, we're going to mostly go by sets a lot of the time when we're just talking about overall volume, but really your sets and reps are the indicators of volume here. So what that basically means is how many sets and reps are you doing over your week? We're typically more going to look at how many sets you're doing over your week rather than your reps, because that would be a lot of counting. But we're going to look at your overall volume by looking at the overall amount of sets that you're doing for a given body part in your week. And then again, for progressive overload, the way that we're going to improve that is by week, maybe trying to add sets or add reps every single week. Now, as we're saying, as far as progressive overload, it can be multiple different ways of doing that. It can be with intensity, it can be with volume, so we can improve the weight, we can increase the amount of sets and reps, but it can also be with
frequency.
Oh, what a transition.
So that sounds very similar to volume, but that's actually how many times you're going to train that particular muscle each week. So rather than the total amount of sets, yes, that ties into it, but it's going to be like if you trained arms on a Monday, Wednesday, and a Friday, right? You've got three times a week frequency. Yeah, so that can be, in terms of building muscle, you're typically going to be looking at anywhere between 2 and 6 times training a particular muscle. Now that sounds really intense, like you're going to have to train 6 times a week and all that kind of stuff. Reality is, for most people, 2 times a week seems to have the most efficacious results, right? So in terms of fatigue and building muscle. So don't freak out and think you've got to train.
And sometimes you might need to increase it to maybe 3 or 4. I very rarely are going to be higher than 3 or 4 though for most of the programming that I'm going to be writing.
Small muscles can be 3 or 4. Typically.
Exactly. So maybe something like calves or biceps or triceps, maybe even delts, if you're trying to grow out.
Calves 6 times a week, actually.
You could probably train calves a lot. Yeah. I mean, when we're talking about small muscles, you can use more frequency, higher frequency, so more times tapping that every single week.
Bipedal people.
Yes.
Bipedal.
Bipedal.
I almost said it wrong there.
You did. So those are the 3 main things that we're talking about. Intensity, volume, and frequency. Those are the main things that you need to really worry about is improving one of those, or increasing one of those over time. Now, when we're talking about progressive overload, most of the time we're basically talking about what's called myofibrillar hypertrophy. So what that means is basically mechanical tension, as previously mentioned. That just basically means...
The fancy way of saying it.
Yeah. It's the fancy way of saying basically progressive overload. And all that means is we're just trying to improve something over time. And this is what people get wrong a lot of the time, is they try to just focus on getting a pump or whatever, which we will go into in a little bit. But really that is the main factor here for growing muscle. Next thing is
sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. Okay, so that's basically metabolic stress. So that is the pump, right? So this leads nicely into our myths and misconceptions, right? So people focus massively on just this pump when they start working out. They're like, I've got such a great pump in my chest, and this is going to build so much muscle doing this. Now it is an indicator, but it isn't the indicator.
Yeah.
As you
So
said earlier.
So the main thing is it's difficult to scale a pump. That's the main thing, and why we don't usually go by a pump when we're talking about our training with our clients is because it's how do I write into your programming get a pump? It's not a very useful tool.
And it can be achieved with minuscule weights.
Yeah.
Right? Stuff that you would have, there would be no adaptation whatsoever. Like, everyone's held like a book up for a long period of time, I don't know, at school or things like that, and you hold it for like half an hour and it gets really, really tiring and your arm gets pumped, there's blood in your forearms, whatever. You don't wake up the next day like, I'm so jacked now, I'm going to build all this muscle, hold of this book. You still need some myofibrillar hypertrophy, so you need that mechanical tension in order to get long-lasting results.
Yeah, so the other thing here, kind of following on really from pump, is DOMS. So DOMS, a lot of people might have heard about it before. DOMS basically delayed onset muscle soreness. That's the acronym for that. DOMS basically means that, you've trained and then the next day, maybe even the next day after that, maybe if you've really gone hard even the day after that, you feel soreness in that body part. So this is probably both of our opinions, probably a better indicator than the pump as far as like how much growth you're getting from that. Now, like if you're using a muscle and you feel sore the next day, there's probably a good chance that you've actually trained that muscle pretty hard and it's probably getting some growth from that.
Now, as a caveat to that, because a lot of people will think we're trying to say like you need DOMs to make gains. We're not saying that, but we're just saying like if you train and you're someone who's trained relatively consistently over a period of time, if you get DOMs, whether that be after you've trained for years and you manage to hit a DOMs in that particular session, the next day you feel it, you're going to experience some growth. There's been some micro tears to the muscle and therefore you will experience growth. We're not saying you have to get DOMs on every single one, but it is a great indicator in terms of once you're an experienced lifter, if you're still getting DOMs, you're doing something right. You're on the right path.
Because it's rare really for us to get DOMs. Like what we may get DOMs from are maybe like a really heavy squat session or maybe like a really heavy like volume deadlift session.
Yeah.
That might give us DOMs, but most of the time we're not really going to get that much soreness. So if we do get soreness somewhere, we're probably going to take note of it and go, maybe there was we added an extra set or we added a new exercise in, and that could have been the indicator.
We're adapting to a new stimulus, which is typically some form of progressive overload.
Yeah. So we've kind of gone through the myths and misconceptions here already, and really we just wanted to touch on the pump and DOMs for today. I mean, those are, don't get us wrong, they're not useless, they are definitely useful, but we don't want to overly rely on them as our primary indicators as to are we growing or not.
Because the more you train, the less you'll experience them.
Yeah.
So that's why you shouldn't get hung up on it too much, right? Because then you're always going to be chasing back when you were getting newbie gains at the very beginning,
Yeah. And then also that can kind of sometimes lead to a little bit of lack of motivation. If you're not getting a pump every time and you're going by, I always need a pump,
or
and then you're
DOMs.
and then you're not getting the pump or the DOMs, then you're kind of like, maybe the workout was crap, and then you kind of like go down that path of not getting satisfaction from your training sessions, where you tend to get a lot of satisfaction, or at least we do and a lot of our clients do, from breaking a PB by either getting a new number, getting new sets of reps. Those are really easy ways, maybe not so much
never taken away from you.
But that you always say that.
Once you have a number,
you deadlifted
forever.
He'll deadlift like 290 like 6 months ago, and he's like, it's still my number now.
It's still my number.
But it's true. But it is his number.
It's going to be better soon.
Yeah, it will
How
be.
dare you?
It will be, babe. Babe, it will be. Anyway, so the next thing that we need to talk about really here, and we touched on this on the last episode as far as weight loss, is your calorie intake. So
super important.
Really, really important. I have been myself, I've gone from 67 or 8 kilos when I first started training to now 110 kilos.
Which is mental, really.
It's a lot of weight gain, yeah. But when I had a few plateaus here and there, a lot of the time it was just lack of food. So as soon as I got stuck around like 85, 86 kilos at one point, I was really lean, but I just couldn't put any more size on. I was like, why can't I put more size on? I was like eating like 2,000 calories and I just needed to eat more food. So often as a beginner, you know, you want to see those results. So you want to try to just like be lean and have like visible abs and stuff like that.
Abs is what everyone's obsessed with at school.
I don't know
Everyone's obsessed with abs at school.
Abs are not very impressive to me.
Well, they're all right.
They're okay.
They're all right.
Anyway.
You wouldn't be like, I don't want them.
Yeah. You don't fully reject them.
But simply put, what he's essentially saying is you can't build muscle unless you have an excessive amount of fat on your body already in a calorie deficit.
Yeah.
Maybe if it's a very small one and you're sort of that...
And you're new, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe you get those newbie gains.
Yeah, you probably could if you're brand new, but it's going to be very difficult. It's also going to be super slow.
Yeah.
It's already a relatively slow, laborious process. Yeah, which is rewarding, but if you've got no calories in, and like
it's a bit of a nightmare.
You can deadlift 45 pounds, and then 1 year later you can deadlift 50 pounds. It's like,
you
nailed it.
Probably should have eaten a bit more.
We're training 7 days a week.
So basically what we're trying to say here is, if you're starting out and your goal is to gain muscle, unless you're obese or like you're really overweight, you should probably spend a long period of time in a slight surplus because that's where you're going to then be able to really get the most out of those newbie gains and actually get some muscle while you're training your arse off, basically.
You think about like it's a house when you don't have enough bricks if you've not eaten enough calories.
Yeah.
That's the simplest way to put it.
I've never heard of that analogy, but I like it. So you do a small caloric surplus as a beginner, definitely super useful. I mean, if you're already quite experienced, then maybe you could be a little bit leaner and probably still, you know, build muscle. But
you probably appear leaner because you've got more muscle on you.
Well, and this is why we always advocate trying to build more muscle because, you know, just makes life a much...
And like the previous video, you don't have to eat bloody 1,000 calories.
Which is miserable.
Yeah, who wants to do that?
So the last thing we really want to touch on here, and this is a really boring point that no one's going to want to hear, but you just have to be consistent, guys. You just have to be consistent.
Unfortunately, it's true.
A lot of people kind of give up after, you know, 3 months or so, and they're like, they just don't see massive results, so they're just like, well, guess it's not working. Yep. It's like, it takes a long time.
4 week, 6 week, 8 week, 12 weeks programs, implying there's some sort of magical end after you get there. Like, that suddenly
this is the end point.
Someone rings a bell and goes, gains! And that's the end.
They say gains?
Yeah, that's it.
Someone says it.
The bell.
Damn.
The chime says... No.
Let's leave it. Let's get back to the point. Okay, going on a tangent there. But basically what we're trying to say is you have to be hard working for a long time to build muscle. We've been training, both of us, like a decade at least, really. Basically, a decade each.
Good old Argos weights when I was 15.
Yeah.
Concrete made you look way stronger than you were.
I was doing it with like old bits of framework for building a house.
It's Argos weights is less cool.
Mine was kind of like a Rambo Rocky montage.
I broke a shelf.
Anyway, so the finishing point here is consistency. You have to work hard, you have to work for a long time. It takes a long time, guys. So don't be disheartened when you don't see yourself just being like massive and having those arms, after like 12 weeks. It's just not going to happen.
And also,
it takes a long time.
An interesting point as well. You won't see it as much, right? Other people's reference to you will be far more valuable than yours. This has kind of gone into a serious tangent after talking about bells saying gains. But because you see yourself in the mirror every single day, this is why it's good to have a reference point. Like, take a picture before you start. Yep. It will be other people that point out the changes that you've made. You won't see, I don't know, your bicep grow an inch over so-and-so period of time, But other people will go, oh, wow. Or people that haven't seen you for like a few months will be like, wow, you look really different. So
the most gratifying is when you haven't seen someone for years. And you come back and you sit, and they're like, "Oh my god!" And then you're like, "Wow, And that's when you notice, is when people that you haven't seen in a long time are like, "Wow, you look completely different." And that's when you get that kind of, you know, that reassurance that it was actually worth it, and you have actually been working towards something. And it is difficult to see yourself sometimes. So, you know, as you were saying, if you're taking pictures or whatever, definitely take pictures. Maybe just like make sure that you're using the same lighting. Yeah. You know, you're being honest with yourself as far as how you look, so that
don't
you
be like
can
standing
actually
underneath the sun.
Yeah, don't get, as they call it, goon light. The goon light, where it's just perfect gym lighting. Make sure you're being honest with yourself. As far as that.
99% of social media.
Most of social media is goon light. So yeah, try to avoid doing that. Be honest with it. But that's basically it.
Yeah. Really. So the summary will be progressive overload, consistency, calorie surplus. Let's put it as simply as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those 3 things. Focus on those.
Yeah.
And there you have it.
That's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. We're going to have all our details
Smash
below.
the subscribe button like you said last time.
Yeah, you did it.
Where did that go? No, you said it.
I know, I'm saying you did it this time.
I take full credit for it every time.
Don't. Yeah, like and subscribe and comment down below as well. Really appreciate it, guys.
Anything you want to see, comment down below as well.
Yeah, also, we're probably going to be doing Q&As and stuff like that and discussions and stuff like that. So if you do want to see some of that sort of stuff, let us know. That would be great. All right, thank you, guys.
Peace.